Today, we're going to be talking about all the details of running a YouTube channel with 15,000 subscribers, including how much money I make. I realize some of you may be new to this channel. This may be the first video of mine that you're seeing. So my name is Nick. My channel here obviously is AutoTechNick, and I focus primarily on very technical DIY, very long form content focused purely around automotive repair. Specifically, it's really a lot of Ferrari content. There's some other things that I do here and there. And I bring this up because a lot of what I've found with my channel and how I've had success is very different from everything I've read online. And I've seen a lot of people talking about their YouTube channels and how much money they make. Not much of that is specific around an automotive YouTube channel. And on top of that, everyone is eager to talk about how much they earn off YouTube, but there's not very much conversation about everything they do behind the scenes to make that channel work. And that's really what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to be talking to you guys through the steps that I took to take my channel from 0 subscribers up to where we are now, just a little over 15,000. My process to get the channel to grow, everything that I use to film. I'm going to be talking about all of our gear that we use, all the techniques that I use to film, all of my editing software, how I edit my videos, really what I'm looking for in the edits of the videos. We're going to be talking about our thumbnails, and obviously we're going to be talking about all the numbers, average views, CPM, RPM, and what everyone wants to know. How much money do you make by having a YouTube channel? Stick around, because I think a lot of the answers will surprise a lot of you guys. All right, so I think we're just going to get started with really the birth of my channel. I knew where I was heading with my channel, but I was methodical on how I got there. I essentially just started uploading random video clips that I had of cars that were saved on my phone. Really anything that I thought had moderate value, although I was not expecting a lot of views from those clips. I was just trying to get familiar with the process of uploading the video clips, doing all my titles, my tags, thumbnails, and really kind of just feeling out the process of seeing how it works and seeing how they, responded and reacted. And honestly, I wasn't expecting a lot of views out of those videos. I can tell you there was a point in time where I had 5 subscribers and they're all my family and friends. I knew who each one of my 5 subscribers was. So it was a really slow growth while I was posting those videos, which was fine. That's kind of what I was expecting. I did actually get pretty lucky fairly early on where I had a video that was basically a collage of pictures that I had through an entire build that I did years prior. I didn't really have any good video of the car, but I had just thousands of pictures of the entire build process. So I put a video together just showing that build process from really start to finish, and with the few videos I had of that car at the end. And I got really lucky. That video really took off, which was the first video that I had take off for me. It within 2 days ended up getting like 50,000 views, I think. It's still my most viewed video on the channel. And I ended up picking up, I think probably in those 2 days, like 500 subscribers. So I went from 30 subscribers to 500, and that was, very exciting to have that process happen and just really see the correlation of the views spike, all the comments coming in, all the activity, and just see that happen on the channel. Now, after that video, it was really a lot of the same. I was still kind of just putting together what I had available. I wasn't filming anything specific for the channel. It was just kind of remnants and leftovers that I had. And I just really thought it was important to get familiar with the process, but also have something on the channel. So when I start getting in the real content, that there was a little bit more there to it. We worked through all of the short footage that I had, and then I had some other project cars in the shop that I was working on. So I just started filming those project cars, the work that I was doing, and creating some videos. And they're bad. I look back on them and they're very bad. But it was getting me familiar talking to the camera. It was getting me familiar with how to film. It was getting me familiar with how to edit. And it was, I think, probably a year before I actually uploaded a video where I was talking in front of a camera. Quite a bit of time to where I actually was uploading videos and presenting myself in front of the camera and then talking through projects. It was pretty moderate growth. I was doing pretty decent. And then I ended up starting or putting a automotive project that I had on hold, and I actually had to do some repairs to a boat that I had, and I unintentionally stumbled into a complete niche that did not exist on YouTube, and that was jet boat repair. Did not realize it. There wasn't a lot of content on it, especially the technical DIY stuff. As soon as I started posting those videos, they really started growing the channel very rapidly. I was getting 10,000 views for each video pretty much over the course of the weekend, consistently gaining a lot of subscribers, and really saw a lot of growth. And that was the first time I actually saw that I was building a community, where I saw the repetitive people in the comments and just a lot of discussion going on, talking about the project. They like the videos. People are complimenting me on the editing, which was the biggest compliment as somebody that's never done it. So really worked myself up through there up until the point about a year ago is when I first started getting into the Ferrari content, which is really where I wanted to be. I bring all this up to share with you guys my journey because all of those other stuff that I did, it really helped grow an audience, but it got me familiar with the process. It got me familiar with filming. It got me familiar with my hardware that I'm using, and I really worked out the kinks. So by the time I got to the content that I really wanted to be creating, I wasn't as nearly as bad as I was when I first started. It was one of those things that when I went into this, I knew that I was going to have bad content. I knew that I was going to present poorly, edit poorly, and the content wasn't going to be that good, but it's a learning curve, and I knew just with a matter of time and practice, I would get better, just like now. I hope in several years when I look back to the videos now, I can think the same thing, that I've grown and gotten a lot better. But essentially, that was really the path I took, going from 0 subscribers all the way up to, we're just hair over 15,000. I think we're like 15,500 right now. So now that we know the journey that I took content-wise to grow my channel from 0 subscribers to where we're at today with 15,000, let's dive into some of the numbers and talk about the actual subscriber count throughout the years so we can kind of track our growth. Now I'm looking here, and I started posting about April of 2021, and we'll just round out the year of 2021. I ended that year with 57 subscribers in total. So from April to December, I gained 57 subscribers, and I bet you most of those were my friends or family. Very slow, very painful. Now, we'll get into 2022, and we started that year of 57 subscribers, and I finished with 1,297. And that video that I talked about that exploded very early, that happened in February. So in January of 22, I had 88 subscribers. In February of 22, I had 289. By March of 22, I had 560. So you can see it just spiked, which was very exciting. But you can see for the rest of the year, in March, I had 560, and it just kind of steadily grew, but I only ended up at 1,200 at the end of the year. So it was just a big spike, and then really helped the channel start growing. So I would say that big spike in that video started an upward trend of steady growth for my channel. We're going to fast forward to 2023. We started that off with 1,297 subscribers, and we finished off with 3,396. And then that is in the year when we started my jet boat videos, where I started building that audience and following, and I saw an immediate uptick in channel growth that never dropped off after creating those videos. Jump into 2024, we started that year off with 3,396 subscribers. We finished 2024 off with 8,748 subscribers. So if you're catching a trend, I'm essentially doubling my growth year over year, which in most businesses, that's not bad at all. I don't have much to complain about. And that brings us to 2025. We started this year with 8,748 subscribers. I'm now at 15,000, I think 500 or 600 as of filming of this video. Right now, it is early October, so there's a very strong chance that I'm going to be able to hit the number to double my 2025 numbers from my 2024 numbers. I hope that I can keep that growth doubling year over year. I know that it's not realistic and it's going to start to peter out, but if I'm going to bring in an extra 8,000 subscribers this year, and do that again twofold next year and the year after that, that's outstanding growth. You know, with that compounding growth, the numbers are going to get bigger and bigger, and hopefully it's going to grow at a much faster rate. All right, so let's start talking about the gear and equipment that I use, starting with our cameras. Now for my main camera, I'm just using my iPhone 16 Pro. I've found that using the iPhone, it's super convenient. It's always with me. It's always in my pocket. It's ready to go. The video footage, I think, is outstanding. It turns out great. File storage, file management, that's all very easy, very manageable to do, and it's just a matter of convenience. I think the video quality is so good and the convenience is so high, and I already have it. I don't have to go buy a new piece of equipment. There's no reason not to use your phone these days. When I have to use other cameras, which I do quite frequently when I'm test driving a car, or a lot of times when I'm doing something very technical, I try to get different cameras set up to get different perspectives while I'm doing the work. I find that to be a lot easier where I can work through the work with having those cameras already set up filming, so I don't have to stop and reposition cameras. When I'm always supplementing my iPhone for cameras, I'm using GoPro Hero 9s, so I have several of these. I keep them all the same, so that way I'm able to keep the same batteries and interchange everything through. So my opinion on these GoPros is, I would say, lukewarm. There's a lot of pros and cons on them. I think there's probably more cons than pros. They're real picky in cold temperatures, which in the winter in the shop here, it's not super warm, so I do struggle with them a bit. The footage is not as good as the iPhone when it's in low light or indoors like I'm using here. If it's outdoors, they're great, But a lot of times I'm tucking these in while I'm doing a repair in a little nook and cranny because, well, they're a lot smaller than an iPhone, and they really struggle getting good quality footage as compared to the iPhone. So that's one of the cons on them. I will say, one of the pros, anytime I'm test driving a car, I usually do have a GoPro mounted on the rear of the car. I actually use a media mod kit and just a suction cup, and I put this on the back of the car. This is the best thing that I have found to capture the audio of the car without excessive wind noise. I've had a lot of interference issues with microphones at the back of the car. So GoPros as a microphone on the back of the car, outstanding. I love them. That's really all that I use. I have 3 of those GoPros in my iPhone, so that gives me 4 angles, which is pretty manageable. So the next thing we're going to talk about, I think single-handedly had the biggest impact on my channel. I would say it's the only piece of gear that you really do need to go buy, and that is a set of microphones. So I'm using the first gen DJI microphones here. I made a lot of videos without microphones at all, and it honestly just got to a point when I was watching them back during editing or on the TV that I could not stand to hear the audio on it. It was terrible. So I finally bit the bullet, bought this DJI mic pretty early on, and I can tell you that it makes a dramatic difference. I'm incredibly happy with this product. It's done great for me. So it integrates perfectly with the iPhone. So I have the receiver right now plugged into the iPhone. I actually have the microphone here on a lanyard underneath my shirt. It puts all of my audio recorded to the video on my iPhone, so I don't have to do any overlays after the fact. All my audio is embedded to my main camera and my main video. So it's super easy in editing. I don't have to worry about it. It just has the 2 receivers. It works pretty great. Sometimes that's what I was saying when we're talking about the microphone with the GoPros. I've tried putting these at the back of the car, even with the mouse hair on top, and they do not do a good job at capturing the audio of a car. I just default to the GoPros, but these have been pretty solid. Most of us have good cameras already, but this is the first thing I'd buy if you're making a channel. The audio quality is so much better. They're inexpensive enough. I think they're like $300. They work great. We got our cameras and audio covered. Let's talk about editing. Now, I first started all my editing in iMovie, and I edited in iMovie successfully for an incredibly long time. And as we mentioned, I had 0 editing experience before this. I had literally never edited a video until I decided to start a YouTube channel. iMovie worked great for that because I didn't really know what I'm doing, and it's pretty user-friendly for somebody like me that has 0 experience. And I can say after a year and a half of editing in iMovie, there was times where I started to get ideas of stuff that I wanted to do in the edit, and I was starting to run into limitations of iMovie where it couldn't do what I wanted to do with it. I was still working through that and just trying to manage it, and it got to a point to once I actually incorporated using multiple camera angles. It's kind of easy to use 2 camera angles in iMovie and overlay them based on your audio and just manually do that, the switch. But when you go from 2 to 3 or beyond, iMovie cannot do that. I can tell you that I found that out mid-edit on a video that I was doing with my son on his car, and it was the first time we used multiple camera angles. We actually used all of our GoPros and his phone and my phone, so we had 5 camera angles, and I quickly realized that iMovie's not going to work, and I had to switch to Final Cut Pro mid-edit. Now, I can tell you that making the jump from iMovie to Final Cut Pro with 0 experience was a bit of a learning curve. It was quite a bit different, but Final Cut Pro is great for synchronizing all my multiple angle clips, so I can put all the footage in, it synchronizes it all off of the audio, and then I can just go through and select the clips as I edit. Like I said, learning to use Final Cut Pro was a massive learning curve because what I didn't realize is how the files balloon in size. So the first video I tried to edit, I ran out of space on my hard drive on my computer because I just thought that I could do it all locally on my computer. I was completely unaware that you need to edit on an external hard drive. All of my editing I do on a SanDisk 4 terabyte external hard drive. So I load all my footage in here, run through all my edits. Once my movie is completely done, I essentially make my own folder in here, create a library in that folder with all my footage, run through my full edit for the video, export my video once it's finished, and then I delete all my render files to get the file size back down to somewhat reasonable, and I store everything on a separate external hard drive. That was a steep learning curve because I was really pushing to get a video out by a certain date. It was the perfect storm, trying to learn how to use Final Cut Pro, get the external hard drive, fighting for the file size. I had no idea what was going on. I'm constantly Googling when I kept running into problems. I can look back at it now and explain it to you guys what the problems were, but it was a learning curve. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't have anyone to lean on and ask questions to or show me. It was just a matter of getting in there, trying the software, running in the problems, Googling it, finding a solution, working through it. So that really puts us where we are today with the equipment. We're using the iPhone for our main camera. We're using our GoPros for the supplemental cameras. We use the DJI mics. Speaking of the DJI mics, I will say that these have a magnetic clip. You can hang them on your shirt. I used to actually tuck it up under here on my hat, just trying to find different locations to have this mic. I found that for me on this mic, I can't clip it on my shirt because I'm working on cars and it moves around and it creates a lot of noise and I have a lot of problems with it. You can get lapel mics that I've tried those also, but again, I'm working on cars and I have this mic ran down my shirt to the receiver and it's been troublesome. It's pulling on me. It's not comfortable. It's just something that I've tried I didn't really like. And this lanyard that I found where I have the mic, excuse the noise, but I have it here under my shirt. For me, for working on cars, that's been the best solution because I get the cleanest audio. It's the most comfortable to wear. It doesn't move around that much when I'm moving around on the car. It's not picking up a bunch of static noise. In the summer, I have a fan in here running and it blows in the mic. It creates a lot of noise. What I'm saying is it's a little bit different depending on what you're doing because a lot of people are making content and they're like in a studio or a very controlled environment. But I'm out here in a shop, I'm driving cars, and I'm really struggling to capture the audio that I want and eliminate the audio that I don't want. And my mic positioning has been part of that process of just figuring out what does work and what doesn't. Okay, so we discussed the gear that we use. We discussed what I'm using to edit videos. Let's talk about what I'm doing to film videos. I will say that I do not work off of a script on my videos. I'm really focused when I'm making a video to cover the topic that's in that video for that car. Let's say we're gonna go through and do a head gasket on a car. My goal, to the best that I can, is to cover that head gasket start to finish. I just kind of play it by ear as I'm filming. I kind of have like just kind of keep track in my mind. I kind of have a loose idea of how much I've been talking, and then if we're gonna move into a sequence that has, where I'm gonna cut the video up and have music playing behind it or just move it into a straight time lapse. Kind of go with the flow in my head, and I kind of just keep in mind of how much have I talked. We did a time lapse about how long ago, should I do another time lapse? And really, I'm winging it. That's all there is to it. It's worked fairly well so far. I've done a couple videos that were very technical, that I had a lot of content that I wanted to cover with a script, but it was really more so bullet points that I wanted to talk about and in the order that I wanted to talk about them. And it did help out, but I'd say for the most part, I'm out here just trying to cover the work in as much detail as I can, start to finish. And I will say a lot of times if I go through and I'm fully disassembling something, I'm not going to cover fully reassembling it. That's where we're going to switch to just bits and clips and pieces of me putting it back together with audio over it, or just do a time lapse. I try to manage not putting too much time lapse into my videos, but I will say that I haven't had too much negative comments for running too much time lapse, or I haven't seen anything negative on the views of the amount of time lapse that I put into the videos. So now that we all know that I'm just winging it, filming the videos, let's segue in and start talking about thumbnails here. And I will say that this is one area that, again, not many people talk about what they're doing to make their thumbnails. From my experience, an easy thumbnail all comes down to the quality of picture I take. If I forget to take a picture for my thumbnail and I'm trying to pull an image or a screenshot from the video, it's very difficult to do so. If I am intentful and I take a good picture with a good camera, even my iPhone camera works, but I usually try to use a good digital camera and take that picture for my thumbnail, keeping in mind what I have loosely an idea for the thumbnail, it's wildly easier. So it can be a very frustrating process, or I can get one done in a couple minutes. We're looking here, and I will say that I use Canva for all of my thumbnail making. It's worked really well. They've continuously updated the app, so it gets much better. And where it's at now, it works pretty great. And you can see by my thumbnail style that I blur my background here and I have the car as the main focal point. That's why I say the pictures are so important, because if I take a poor picture, for me to remove the car from the background so that way I can blur out the background and keep the car in focus can be incredibly difficult and tedious, where I have to manually do it and their automated tools won't do it for me. A quality picture is just one click of a button. It does what I need. I move on. But we're looking here at a thumbnail that I previously made, and really my recipe is to blur the background 30 to 35%, clear image of the car in front. I do a small shadow outline around the car. The main background, I put a vignette on so it darkens the outside edges of my picture. I put a picture of myself in all my thumbnails. I have a stockpile of pictures, so I'll go through, take a lot of pictures with me showing different emotions and expressions, and just throw them all in a folder It saves so much time just having a stockpile of those sitting there ready to go. So when I'm making a thumbnail, I can just grab the expression I want, I can drop it in. I don't have to stop and go take a picture specifically for that thumbnail, which is what I used to do until I finally got smart about it and stockpiled everything. So I drop that in, again, a small white border around myself. Sometimes I do and do not use the Ferrari logo. Again, that's very specific to the type of thumbnails that I'm making. And I always try to put my channel logo in the bottom corner. I will say, finding the caption for the thumbnail is one thing that I also struggle with. A couple of reasons. One, I deem myself as a pretty uncreative person. The content of my channel is very important to me, and I don't want to be clickbaity. I don't want to steer people down the wrong direction. So I want that thumbnail to be true to the video and the content of the video, and the same thing for my title. It's a fine line where I want it to be true and authentic, but I want to try to draw in as many new visitors and potential subscribers as I can to get that channel growth. But at the end of the day, my integrity is more important to me, and the content of my channel is the most important to me, so I'm going to stick true to my guns, try not to be click or rage baity, just try to convey what the video is about the best I can while making it appealing for people to hopefully want to tune in and watch. So there's one more thing I want to discuss before we start talking about how much I earn off this channel, and that's really my investment to this. Now, I'm not talking about my investment in my cameras, my microphones, my computer, subscriptions, Final Cut Pro, none of that. What we're talking about is my investment in my time. Now, that's really twofold here, right? Because when I'm filming these videos, walking and talking you guys through that with the camera, setting up cameras in different positions while I'm doing all the work on the cars, that slows me down quite a bit. I would say right now it slows me down, depending on the subject that we're doing, 50 to 25%. That really has a big effect on how much work I'm able to actually get through my shop, which does affect my bottom line at the end of the day. If I weren't to be filming this work that I'm doing, I'm just bringing these cars in, getting them fixed and returning them to the clients, I would be far more productive than I am now while I'm trying to film. So there's already a hit right there that hopefully we need to see the returns for, right? But the biggest burden that I have is editing. In general, I would say that my videos range anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours long. That's another subject in itself, but I will say that I do not target a specific length of my videos. I just cover the content that I'm filming, and however long the video ends up being, it ends up being. I have had a couple videos that ended up being 3 hours in the edit, and I end up cutting them in half because I'm apprehensive of posting a 3-hour video. But I will say in general, I have found that the longer my videos are, the better they do, which goes against everything that you read online about YouTube channels. Everyone's saying make a video 15 to 20 minutes. Not for me. I used to do that. I used to target around 30 minutes, and I actually had a few videos that got longer and longer. And I actually really learned a lesson where I had a video that I intentionally cut in half because I thought it was too long, posted each half of that video separately. And since I filmed it in one shot, I eventually went back and merged it in one full-length video and published that video, even though all that content had already been on my channel. The longer video demolished the two separate videos. The view count is so much higher, it grew my channel so much more, and that's really what made me understand to not worry about video length. And I think that's all related to the longer video has more watch time, so there's more potential for ad revenue, so YouTube pushes the video more so it does better. But what I'm getting at with this video length is currently on average, if you guys are seeing a 2-hour-long video on my channel, when I put all of my raw footage into my computer, that is over 6 hours of footage that I have to go through and cut down to make that 2-hour video. I'm sure a professional editor could get that done a lot quicker than I can, but with me balancing everything that I'm balancing with working on the cars, creating the estimates, handling clients, and then on top of that, I'm trying to find enough time to cut a 6-hour video down the 2 hours. That's a lot. So that's really what I'm talking about on investment. And you guys can see that it's hitting me twofold. Really, I have the investment of the lost efficiency and productivity as I'm filming while I'm working on these clients' cars. And on top of that, the real big one is the editing burden. It is a lot of time and a lot of work to put these videos together. 6 hours of footage is a lot of footage to work through. It is incredibly time consuming. I actually enjoy it. It's fun to see it come together because sometimes you'll be making a video and you're like, ah, this one's going to be great. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but it's time consuming. It's very, very time consuming. All right, so we've talked about the inception of my channel and really how it started. I covered all the gear that I use, the cameras, the microphones, my editing software. We went through how I'm making my thumbnails. And I shared with you guys the investment that I have while I'm making these videos. So the only thing we have left to cover is how much I'm actually making. All right, so getting into the numbers, we're just gonna start with our views. So the lifetime views on my channel is 3.5 million views so far. Our watch time hours currently racks up at 137,000 hours. And we've already covered it, but I'm at 15,600 subscribers. So what does all that equal? That equals a total revenue of $6,902.68. That is all I've made since I've been making these videos. So let's break that down into my current numbers, because that's the numbers that I've made over the life of the channel. So we're going to jump back to our most recent month of September. I had 162,000 views. We had 4,000 watch hours. I gained 400 subscribers in a month. And my estimated revenue for September was $261.49. Should be pretty easy to see with the amount of work and time that I put into these videos. I'm currently earning $261 off of a month for running my YouTube channel. So obviously I really hope those numbers grow. They have been progressing, but I mentioned it earlier in this video that my revenue has not been growing linearly with my subscriber count. And I attribute a lot of that to where I had a couple shorts that really took off. Obviously it's a short, so it's a really low watch time. So I think a lot of that is skewing my numbers. And there's also kind of the challenge on my channel where I started with some automotive content. I pivoted midway through to that jet boat, which really helped to grow a community. But then now I'm working back on Ferraris again. I thought it was going to be pretty similar with this channel, switching in between different genres, kind of within the automotive sector. I can tell you that that's not the case. It's essentially I've started my channel over 3 times. The audience that all watched my jet boat videos, they did not follow over with my current work. I thought there would be a little bit more following with that because obviously they get to know me, they watch the channel, it's familiar. It has been like starting all over again. So my numbers have been different year to year, and that's because I've been changing my content more than I wanted to. But we're now finally here on the stuff that we intended to be on. So hopefully from here moving forward, it's gonna be a bit more consistent. So I switched the analytics over to the fiscal year of 2025, and that puts us at a total revenue of $2,700. If we switch to 2024, I ended up earning $2,584. So you can see that although my subscriber count nearly doubled this year for 2025, and although I have made more money in 2025 than 2024, my revenue did not double. It marginally increased. Granted, we still have the year to finish it out, so it should be closer up to the $3,500 range. It didn't double from the $2,500 from 2024. It's not the revenue a lot of people think, and in my particular instance, for the time that I have invested into making all this content, it doesn't pay off that well versus say if you're running a YouTube channel and you're gaming or saw people that are doing vlogs where the time that they have invested isn't as significant as my setup, their return on investment is far greater than what I'm seeing right now. Some of the key numbers we'll talk about here is really the impressions click-through rate. That really is registering how often my thumbnail is shown and how many times people go to click on it. So it's basically, I guess a better way to describe it is if my thumbnail is shown 100 times, what's the percentage of times people click on it and watch my video there? So kind of like the appeal factor. My overall channel average is 4.4. I would say it hovers in between 4 to 7 to 8 on my videos, which I think is good. I think is average. You can see my average watch time here is 8 minutes and 47 seconds. Again, that's not really indicative of it because if you look at the percentage viewed, those numbers, it's currently showing that about 20% of my video is watched by my viewers. I don't see a lot of people sharing this information, so I don't really know what is good and what is bad. And I will say that I'm not one of those people that chases the analytics a ton. I frankly don't have the time. I'm too busy working on cars, trying to get my videos edited and uploaded, that I'm not crunching the numbers and really nerding out on this like a lot of other people do. I'm sure it's a missed opportunity for me, but that is just the reality of my situation. So the only other numbers worth talking about is your RPM and your CPM. So your CPM is really how much the advertisers are paying per 1,000 ad views for your channel, and your RPM is how much revenue I see from those 1,000 ad views on my channel. Now those numbers change depending on what segment your videos are in, and really the algorithm, essentially the quality that they deem and how much the advertisers pay. So obviously the more you're getting paid per ad revenue, the more money you're going to make. My numbers usually average around, I would say $20 for my CPM, and I'm usually in between, I'd say $8 to $12 on my RPM. Really what that's meaning is for 1,000 ad views my channel gets, I earn $8 to $12. Not great numbers. One thing we didn't really talk about here, let me jump over and go to my content, is my views. You know, I was doing really good on my view count on my videos on the jet boat build that I was doing. Those videos were averaging, I would say, between 4,000 to 10,000 views pretty quickly. And then once I transitioned and switched over to doing all this Ferrari work, my average view count has dropped back down. Like I mentioned, it's like switching the whole genre on your channel. Where they're averaging 1,000 to 2,000 views for a video. I've had one video that went up to 50,000 views over the weekend a while back, which was fantastic. I have a couple other videos that have higher views. They range up there, 10,000, 8,000, but I would say what I deem to be a standard video only gets a couple thousand views. And you can see that for doing this for 4.5 to 5 years, I'm only pulling in, or I've only earned just under $7,000. So some of you might be pretty surprised to see that I'm only making about $270 a month off of having this YouTube channel, especially considering how much time and energy I've invested in the filming the content, editing the content, and getting everything uploaded. And I think that brings up a pretty valid question that most people are going to have, which is, Nick, why are you continuing to make these videos and put all this time and energy into this? There's several reasons why I'm doing so, and they're all very specific to around Ferrari itself, and that's really the idea I had and why I came up with this channel. So servicing and maintaining Ferraris is very different than a lot of cars, and a lot of these repairs take a long time. They're very in-depth, and there's no beating around the bush. They're very expensive sometimes. When I was working at the dealership, we would have clients drop their cars off. They drop it off for, let's say, a major service, for example, which takes roughly, if everything goes well, 40 hours. So an entire week they get the service done. They drop the car off, and that service can range anywhere from $10,000 on up. The car is in the shop for maybe 3-4 weeks. All the work is done. They get periodic updates, and they come pick the car up. They pay their bill of, say, $10,000 at a minimum. They don't really know what went on during that time. Sure, it could be explained to them that their car had timing belts, and we may or may not have removed the engine to do those timing belts. It's kind of like the car goes to the shop, it disappears for a while, it gets worked on, and they get a big bill. As the technician that was working on the cars, I never liked that. I want to share with the client what they're getting. I want to show them how their car is being worked on, how it's being cared for, the knowledge that I have working on the car, the things that I'm doing proactively to make sure their car is in good condition. They're getting that no matter what. It's almost lost in the dark where they don't see it. That was one of the reasons why I decided to create this channel, and it's why I'm continuing to make these videos, is it's an extra perk or benefit that I can give the clients. So when they're bringing the car to me to be serviced, they can see exactly what I did, how I did it. Essentially, it's full transparency. There's nothing to hide behind. I take a lot of pride in my work. What better to do than to show it and make these videos? Now, some additional benefits of making these videos, specifically for these cars, the service records. They have such a big impact on the value and the resellability of these cars. And what better service record do you have than a video catalog of all the work being done as I walk everybody through it? So it really provides my clients with something extra that it's really hard to find somewhere else. And I would say the last significant reason of why I'm working on this channel is really just a sharing of knowledge. So I've been fortunate to work on these cars for pretty much my entire career. I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, a lot of information about them, and I want to get it out there and share it with people. Whether if they're watching for just their own entertainment reasons, maybe they're looking to purchase one of these cars that can help educate them, or you never know, a lot of these clients actually service these cars on their own, so it can help them out servicing the cars so that way they're back on the road in the best condition that they can be. All right, guys, we covered quite a bit in today's video, so hopefully you have a little bit more insight to what it takes to create, curate, and maintain a YouTube channel. More importantly, you have a little bit of an idea what we get in return. Not nearly as much as you guys were thinking. But with that, I need to get back to working on some cars, so I just want to say thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.